Okay, so I'm about to go and shower. We're gonna schedule the C-section for tomorrow. And so like September, it's you're right, September 5th? Is that a thing? I don't know. Sounds like Spirit. Also the North Uldra leader, like the North Tower. I don't know. Anyways, so that probably has something to do. So we're talking from the future, so I don't know what the umbrella of that movie was, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so now we're gonna do that, and then also we're gonna go over a scene of like a white rose scene. So in a shower, so like while I'm showering, like have that, like we can have that going in my neurons or whatever. So maybe even in the like period of time from this specific moment to like when I finish recording and then like, actually like go downstairs and shower, like, have my neurons like primed so that while I'm in the shower, it like is like the water's interacting with my brain. And like we'll see if like maybe even the water in the shower maybe has like nanites in it or something. I don't even know. I don't even know. I don't know how the future works because I was in the river for a long time. So let's just do that and we'll have like my brain get watered, while I'm in the shower. And we're gonna see like in our Paris world that we're building in the Wishville, like we're gonna see how we can manifest that and like how our technology is working in the future with the king like present. And then like that'll be interesting. But then also like so we're gonna do a white rose scene. So like I'm gonna go over like the priming for the scene. So like the white rose scene is gonna be something along the lines of like uh kind of Isabella and Rosas, and then like Eros and Camilo and Elsa, like Isabella, Eros, Elsa, and Camilo, like these characters, and Eugene, because like I really love like the character of Eugene, and like again, it doesn't necessarily like we also have to go over like the characters and not because again, we've already went over the star power thing, we figured that out. How they like want these like big names in the films, but like I don't care, and like that's what it is. It's like I'm contributing to the film like as much as you guys like want me to, but like I don't care about the money. Like I'm never going to. So I think that that's what it is. Like Dylan, let's take a break from caring about the money. And because again, that's what we just talked about with beyond the trailer with Grace. Like the story has to come first. That's why your fucking site is trash. But yeah, so like I think that that's what it is. We can these characters because like that's really what it is. It's like I'm an author, and like that's exactly what's been happening. Is it's like Hollywood like is not suited to like make like the like to make the content that like my stories are really because like YouTube can do that. Like we can do that on YouTube. Like the Blue Neighborhood trilogy is like a perfect film. The Blue Neighborhood trilogy is like a perfect film. We did it on YouTube. Like we don't need Hollywood. And like I think that's kind of the whole point is that like even with like 9/11 like is coming up and like 9/11 in just like September and autumn, like I think that's the whole point of what's been happening. It's like I'm the one I was waiting for, and since like I don't need like a film to like validate like my authorship, my artwork, or anything. Like I don't need Hollywood to do that. I don't need industry to do that. But like that's what the dam was. Like they built that, and they like were like attacking us because we are like magical and we have friends. Because like people with friends, and like that's what they were trying to say that we were communists or socialists, or whatever. It's like people with friends don't need like an industry or a mirror to like validate their like worth or work. And like they were trying to force us into mirrored halls. Like we were left alone in mirrored halls, so we didn't know ourselves at all. Like that's what happened. Is like they were trying to force us into these like confined spaces so that we would be like dependent on money or like dependent on the industry or like somebody to validate our work. Whereas like I don't need anybody to validate my Sandcraft Online server. I don't need the industry to do that. I don't need them to make Dune or the Wish film or any of these movies. I don't need Disney or Warner Brothers to do any of this stuff because we can do these things ourselves. But that's what the whole screen slavery thing was. That's what the dam is like they were doing that so that we would like seek validation in like the industry or in a monetary system. And like that's how they were stripping us of our humanity. That was in the Wish trailer. Is that like my like loved ones are being commodified? It's disgusting. And so like I think that that's kind of what's been happening. Because like again, like where we like any time that I like that was also I think that's actually kind of important to the Wish film because like a like it's a corruption movie and there's also like police in the Wish in Big Hero 6, and it's a corruption movie like Hunchback, and so like there's a like even the conversion therapy and Callahan wanting his daughter back. Like the Wish film is probably gonna be like a more blue and more forthright depiction of what's actually happening. So we'll probably be seeing scenes like similar to Hunchback and like how Frollo is this like Catholic priest or whatever that is like after Esmeralda or whatever. And like I think that that's kind of what we'll be seeing in the Wish film is as like they're trying to like commodify my architecture. They're trying to commodify my like my design, and like they're trying to like that's why like we'll probably see even maybe even Kansas like because I mean we've seen Paris, we've seen actual like cities like real cities in the world in the Disney film. So it would honestly be kind of interesting if we just saw Kansas in the movie in the Wish film and saw that like just like similarly to Frollo and in Paris, it would be interesting if they just depict Kansas like show yourself. If we just show Kansas. And we just show like what has been happening with like the religious system in Kansas and like what people have been doing in a like a kind of Frollo sense of like suppressing Clopan, like the jester, and suppressing laughter and like authenticity and trying to like force people to be read. Like I think that would be really interesting if people just show that that's what's been happening in Kansas in the Wish film. Like that'd be really interesting to not to like drop the pretense and just be like this movie is set in Kansas. Like the actual like location of the movie, like in the actual life is Kansas. I don't know if they're gonna do that, but it'd be interesting. But yeah, I think that'd be super interesting and like kind of like showing that like that's what's been happening with the situation. It's like I'm also like I don't know if like North Uldra means like North American and like because I met Alma who was South American, but Alma is also my soul. I met her after I wrote the book with the Malian River in it. So like I don't know if she was just trying to tell me that I was from the South. She was trying to remind me who I was, like Eugene, remember who you are. Like she was trying to remind me that I was from the South, not South America literally, but like that I'm from Florida. And so like I came here like Agnar to the North Ultra, and like but I didn't like I was unconscious like Sleeping Beauty for a while and didn't like really realize that I'm not actually from Kansas. And so like I think that's kind of what the story of Agnar and the Enchanted Forest is. It's like he went to the north. I like went to the north of Kansas and got or America and got knocked out. But I'm actually like South, like Amdelian, but I didn't know that. Like, and so I think that I mean I didn't like register that that was like a thing. And so like I think that that's really interesting. But like I think it'd be really interesting to see that play out in the film of like just me actually like being in Kansas and like the enchantment like not like the enchantment dropping and me just like being like, hey, like I'm Aaron Delic from Florida and I've been in Kansas and like it would be interesting if the movie just depicts that like forthright. That'd be super interesting. Um, but yeah, I think like it'd be interesting just to show like that's what's been happening in Kansas with like the red, and then like trying to kind of like trick people into like voting red and like to go into church or whatever because this is about um my like writing power and like what's been happening I think is like they are afraid of what will happen if I go to a blue place and then like with blue people because like I have already like demonstrated like a really, really high potential of freedom to like humanity. And like the only thing that they have left to try to trap me is like trapping me in Kansas. Like, but that's not working. And everybody can see that it's not working, so there's kind of no point in doing that. And so like people are just really afraid of what's gonna happen when I'm like in a blue place, in a blue community and like the world just being like fully free. Like people are scared of that. People don't know what that's gonna be. Even though it will probably be awesome, and they probably know it will be awesome, but they're scared of it because like that like it's just like it's like a what they are perceiving as like a loss of control. I bet. And so like I think that that's what it is. And so like my brain though like they were trying to like commodify it. And they were trying to like um convert it. They were trying to make it something that it wasn't. And so like they're afraid of like the dam falling, like me like those three leaves at the end of the Frozen film of me being in like a community of blue people because like what like imagine what I imagine like look at how much I can do like 7 tier power like your manpower like the power of one, like horsepower in a hydroelectric car. Like people are seeing how much I can literally do, literally all by myself, and how much I would be able to do with like a community of blue people. Like people don't know what that's gonna look like. It's gonna be awesome, but like they're afraid of it as well. And so like I think that's kind of what's happening. And so like that's what the dam situation is. 'Cause like the North Uldra, like YouTube, like San Bruno, like that's all can be like 100% free if you're like intelligent enough. And I've demonstrated that. And so like that's what they said it didn't work. And, like the ESRB rating being fake, and like them saying that like this is like a child's game, and like Minecraft is a child's game, and it's not. Or maybe it was designed, or maybe it was like I actually don't even think that that's it because it's Tron Legacy. So I think that's what it is. That like this has been fully exposed, and people are just like they don't know what it's going to look like for this world to be this blue. Like the Wish film, like was a very small like scout mission of like what the well, I mean the Strange World was a very small like scout mission of what like the Blue New World is going to be in Wish. And so like that's kind of what's happening at the moment. And so I think it'd be really interesting to see like the scenes of like people this information becoming like more like accessible to people. And like in the films, kind of like how you saw like Hito talking in the press, and like me having my phone, when you see that with like Hito has his phone in the Baymax trailer. And we also kind of like have pieced together like how these scenes of like the exploited material in like some of the some of the exploited material like Callahan from like Callahan having my microbots, and then like also Hito having his Megabot, which is like my actual controller in my Minecraft game. Like that's what the Megabot thing is. And so I think it would be really interesting with the White Rose is to see Eros, like my like uh beautiful forms of Eros, like the winged Eros, the battle Eros, the white like the white like robed Eros, and the purple like kind of like purple raven hair Eros. Like I think it would be really interesting to see like and like with the strings and the red sandstone, those five stones. Like I think it would be really interesting to see is like the kind of like the Dean's Garden, and like because we've got the whole like Sandcraft Online map like constructed. And so like I think what will be really interesting, we're gonna really like transition to like White Rose and like gaming department. And we're gonna be like doing like really like demonstrating and really like visualizing and like visually constructing the White Rose scenes. Because now that I'm like not that pregnant and like we're scheduling a C-section for tomorrow, like I'll actually be able to like get like I'll actually be able to like more consciously and awakely um present these things. And so I think what will be really interesting is if like we're seeing these White Rose scenes that are like this like full scale like world, like full scale map atlas. Because like again, I don't necessarily know a Minecraft map is a full like planet or not, but like these full atlases of like this is like the first one that I've like fully constructed. This is the first one that I've like fully constructed. Actually, it's technically the second one that I've fully constructed, but it's the first one that I fully constructed with the awareness that it is a like that it is a like architectural like rendering software. And so like as far as like um making it like accessible to people to see like what it is and like how they can interact with it, and like how I could design something for them at some point in time. Like I think that's kind of how we can do these White Rose scenes of like the people who are trying to commodify it, the people who are trying to destroy it, the people who are trying to steal it, the people who are trying to like buy it, like showing these White Rose scenes of like revealing the corruption of like how like revealing like Eros like kind of like withstanding the test of time and withstanding the corruption of the way that people were trying to commodify it, the way that people were trying to buy it, the way that people were trying to destroy it, and like just showing Eros like withstanding these things like as the White Rose, and being like like in kind of in like a Isabella sort of like flower bed, not in like a literal bed like she was in, but like in the like Rosas world, like the Rosas world can be like the white rose like demonstration. And like what would be really interesting about that is if like the Rosas world is just like kind of like inside of the Kraytech portals. And like we've already also seen like that in Big Hero 6. We've seen that world where Abigail was unconscious. We've seen the Rosas world, which kind of looks like the underwater where Moana was in like the shiny. I do think that like Encanto like took place largely underwater. And so like that's interesting. And or at the very least, it is showing the world that was built from me going to that underwater world in Moana. And so like we've seen that, like we've seen like the Rosas world. I mean, we've seen like Isabella's world, like Camila's world, like the Encanto. We've seen like the like the kind of cotton candy world that's in like Big Hero 6 where Abigail was unconscious. We've seen like the spirits in the Enchanted Forest in Frozen. We've seen like that kind of Fantasia magic in Atahalan. And we've seen like really like really just like beautiful like very vast like boundless world, a strange world. And like we saw how like I kind of reconstructed the Kraytech portals and like made like a functional portal, which I did not like succeed in the other one because I got it stolen. And so like that also shows that like it shows the neurological healing. It shows like the it shows like the like it shows like the freedom of speech demonstration. Um, it shows like revealing myself in the light and how just like being vocal can really like really profoundly improve like society's image of you, and like just kind of like advocating for yourself and like how that like demonstrates to people that you are like capable and like aware, and then like how that like is how you withstand people trying to commodify you or trying to misrepresent who you are intentionally. And so like it would be really interesting if the Rosas world is like kind of like an amalgamation of the kind of more like Fantasia kind of worlds that I just like kind of the aforementioned like Fantasia worlds, and like the Paris world, the Kansas world, the Florida world is like kind of me demystifying this and like Eros demystifying this and like revealing to people that it's like most of what's in the film and most of what the film is more or less just like a testimony, and it's more or less just like a testimonial of like what happened to me that like is being received by people who are in Disney or people who are in California, and like these are just like transmissions that I'm sending to San Bruno, and then like that are being um like that are being like received in Los Angeles and like made into the film, and like kind of how like there is like a sect of people in Los Angeles that are like trying to kind of like follow the lead of San Bruno and like make things that are more accessible to people and make things that are more like diverse. Like uh Ariana DeBose, Asha, is like she like she mentioned that like it's a very diverse cast of people, and so like though like there are kind of people who are receiving these transmissions from me and then receiving them from San Bruno, and like who are trying to construct this like film, and they're trying to advocate like for like freedom of speech and like independence and like for compensation of like writer or like like either like proper compensation or just like accurate representation of like the like individuals who actually like and the talent really like the kind of like the humane work conditions and like the humane um like like treating like workers humanely and like just like really like properly representing the talent and like really properly like having like a livelihood for the talent. It's kind of like what's happening and like them kind of trying to them kind of trying to like embrace like a structure that will like benefit them while them like doing what they know how to do as actors and as like creatives and as like professionals. And I think that would be really interesting to see like those tides like kind of changing in Los Angeles of like the people who are really trying to be vocal about like what their worth is as like creatives, but then also trying to like have like maintain their careers like in the social structure that does literally exist that they have to like cooperate with, but then also trying to like follow the lead of San Bruno because they kind of know that that is the future, but like they don't know how to like actually like do that because there's no like social structure for that, and then like them kind of trying to like open themselves to like receiving me actually traveling to Los Angeles or actually traveling to San Bruno, and like how and like kind of trying to like foster the atmosphere that would like make that possible because they are aware now that by receiving things that they've received from me that like I am somebody who could actually like genuinely benefit them more than the people there are. Like that's the wish more for us than this, than me being trapped here just sending them things and like be kind of like being like kind of narcissistically being like detained in Kansas and kind of like showing like my Rosas world is like this is like is really like a representation or a visual representation of me being detained in Kansas, being displaced from Florida, and like not being able to like travel like independently. And I think it would be really interesting if that's what Rosas is. It's just like the visual representation of what I've uploaded to YouTube and what has been received in San Bruno, and then like that being filtered through the like that like kind of like commodification system that's in Los Angeles, but then the like talent in Los Angeles trying to liberate that and like trying to like make that as accurate as they can within the confines of like what they're being forced to do by the people who are trying to commodify it. And I think that that would be really interesting way to like accurately depict what I have like accurately depict what I have like revealed myself as, but then like also depict like the limitations to how they can actually like manifest that on screen because of how it's being commodified, which is the whole point of the movie. And so like I think that that would really well like demonstrate how like the film is authentic as it can be, but also like demonstrate how it is limited by like the social structure or by like the like monetary system in Los Angeles, which would then like really like effectively show like how we made the film and like why it looks the way that it does and like why there's this kind of like dichotomy of like authenticity and exploitation in the film, which would then like permeate the film with like what it actually like what the actual like story thread of it is that it's like there are these miscommunications that are happening, there's this misrepresentation that's happening, and there are like people on either side of this thing who don't know what the future holds, and so like there is a tepidness that everybody is experiencing, but like there's also like a seems to be a general consensus of like what things ought to be, but then like the like reality of what they are, but then also like people being aware and becoming aware that that doesn't have to be the reality, and that like this fantasy is something that could actually come to fruition, but like they needed that person to be vocal about it, and like no one had done that, but I'm doing it now, and so we're seeing how in the 6 years that have like that has like in the 6 years that we are emerging from, that like the world does not look the way that it did before, and a large part of that has to do with people just being vocal, and like a large part of that is just people like just like authentically like advocating for who they are and what their artwork is and like what their artwork was intended to be. And I think that like having that like be how it's represented in the film, and having Rosas be like this like really beautiful world of like the strange world, like Big Hero 6 like Crytek Portal world, like that the like the kind of reconstruction of like the Crytek debris and like maybe even kind of maybe like even like kind of symbolizing like me be being able to independently travel as like that kind of Crytek debris like emerging through the Crytek portal and like emerging through that portal and then like being reconstructed like the same scene where we saw Callahan like destroying Crytek. It'll be really interesting to see like me emerging like out of the Crytek portal and like out of this darkness and like me emerging out of that is kind of symbolized in like me like becoming more independent and like the constraints to that being lessened. And like I think what would be really interesting is to see like that Crytek debris, like that was just like, kind of like floating around in like that like cotton candy world. To see that kind of like emerge out of the Crytek portal and then like reconstruct itself in the Sorcery Kingdom scene or in a scene in the film, like seeing that Crytek debris like emerge out of that portal and like kind of emerge in like the four portal travel of like these worlds of like the Encanto and like the Strange world and like seeing these scenes of like these like how like the that like uh that like nether passage that I made in Strange World, and then like seeing how that is translated to the like nether passage that bridges Lithia and the Seven Majors and Sandcraft Online, and like showing how like just people authentically and like vocally like representing themselves and like representing how they were intended to be, and just like being vocal about that and being steadfast on that and being forthright on that, and like how that manifests a more accurate depiction, that will then like generate lasting cultural like like a lasting like cultural renaissance really. I think that would be really interesting. But yeah, and so like I think that would be really cool. And so like the Rosas world will kind of look like that. And I think what would be really interesting to see is like you know how like Isabella like is in her bed and like she like when she's like when she is like fighting Mirabelle, like she has like she's holding the like she has her right hand on like one of the strings on her bed or whatever, like the vines on her bed. And like when she gets angry, she like clutches it, but she doesn't hurt Mirabelle. She doesn't do anything to her physically. And I think what would be really interesting is to see like Hito with his phone and then like Eros with like air or like with like one like an orb, like one of the like blue orbs that we see in the Wish trailer, or like with like the like those like water orbs that like the people in Raya were guarding. Like I think it would be really interesting to see like Eros or in his four portal travel, like one of them is like the phone, one of them is like a vine or something, one of them is like Agnar touching that tree in the forest, because that's Agnar's power. Like in the forest, he touched that tree, and then Iduna got swept up, and then the spirits started fighting, and then the mist happened. Like just like the North Ultra people all have like staffs that are probably made from those trees, Agnar, they all also have them in their left hand. Agnar, like, touched that tree with his left hand, and then the spirits started fighting, and the people started fighting, and then the mist happened. Because he touched that tree with his left hand, the whole tree, and not just the staff, because he's way more powerful than all of the people in the forest. Like, that's what happened. I don't know if anybody, like, picked up on that, but I did. And so, like, I think that that's what would be really interesting is to see Eros, like, detained because of his writing or like in Kansas or something. And like to see like how maybe he got turned into a stone bird like in Maleficent or in Sleeping Beauty. It's inspired by Sleeping Beauty. So it'll be really interesting to see like as I'm waking from my like unconscious state and like even with the selfless thing of like we like they're waiting for me to take over or whatever. Like it'd be really interesting if we see him like kind of like with as these white rose scenes in Rosas, which is kind of like the Fantasia dream of like him like having this like Sleeping Beauty Fantasia dream, and like as he's like awaking, it would be really interesting to see like him holding the phone like Isabella was, and then like holding like the tree, and or like holding some like similar to Agnar touching that tree, similar to Isabella touching the vine, similar to or to Hito with his phone, similar to Camilo with like maybe I don't know if it's the food, but like because I mean Camilo has like these plates of food that you see him with like periodically, but like I actually I think it would be better because Camilo is actually his power is actually his voice and like the puppeteering, and like that scene where Camilo's at the dinner table and like everybody's like fighting, he's just like watching because he's the mafia. Like I think that would be really interesting to see him just like puppeteering people with his brain. And like the like that like earpiece that like Hito has in the Baymax trailer, like to see these things like in like these white rose scenes of like while I'm like being detained because of my writing, like Hito and like my like followers of Satan Fellowship, like Camilo, Eros, like as I'm like restoring myself to like who I actually am, I think it would be really interesting is like I'm like detained in like a kind of situation where like people are trying to like force guardianships on me or conservatorships on me or like trying to control my resources or trying to destroy my resources or like trying to like monetize me or trying to commodify me. And like the white rose scenes are like each of the aforementioned like scenes of like me like clutching my like devices or whatever. And like as that's happening, that like kind of like Fantasia power and show yourself in like that white garb that like Magnifico has in the Wish trailer, which that obviously is something that Hito like drew. Like that's what happens in the teaser trailer for Big Hero 6. He is like drawing something with his computer and then like he digitizes it and then like he like prints it and then like Baymax, like he makes the armor for Baymax. So like it'd be really interesting if that's what like the world is that he's in where he's being detained. It's like each of these four like these like in the four portal travel, he's like clutching these devices or whatever. And like the mist is happening and like you see how like that mist that's in San Francisco is like his power and like just like how Gothel they said how much you think you would pay to say young and beautiful forever or whatever. Like I think it'd be really interesting if like that's what's happening in the film is that like each of these white rose scenes are him like clutching or me like clutching this like these devices and like clutching my device, which is really the main thing will be the phone, I think. But then like the kind of like the imaginative side of it will be like the like the full portal travel. And so I think what will be really interesting if that's what's happening is that he's like I'm just like clutching the phone and like when the white rose scenes happen, it's like I clutch the phone just like Isabella does. And like then like the like kind of just how the like when the scene where the Encanto is breaking, like the world you see like is like rippling. And like just as we built the Sandcraft online server and we all learned how it like works and we learned how to like operate it. Like it'll be really interesting to see like that's how like the server itself is like moving. Is that like there are like earthquakes and there are like windstorms and there are like sandstorms and there are like these things that are happening as like Hito is clutching the phone and like White Rose like clutching the phone and like what is happening is that it's like anytime someone is like trying to either elicit a like violent reaction out of me or someone is trying to like provoke me to anger or someone is trying to, or it's like the scenes where someone is trying to like elicit something from me that isn't natural really like I clutch the phone like Isabella does actually probably with my left hand because I hold it in my left hand and I like draw with my and I like do the touch screen with my right hand so it'd be really interesting is that showing my like writing power in my like left hand and like my right brain is like my left brain is like doing things with my right hand and I think it'd be really interesting if that's like how the world is like kind of like the organic nature of the world is like visually represented is that like that's kind of what's happening is like I'll clutch the phone and you'll see like a wave like kind of like a light wave like how Silcoon hardens like because again that's the only move that Silcoon knows is harden but then when Silcoon is a beautifly like at a level 100 beautifly that is super powerful but like I had to do a lot of harden to get there and that's what's happening I'm on Beaton Street in Kansas right now so I'm like detained on Beaton Street, and like each time someone like is trying to like provoke me to anger or like elicit a like violent reaction out of me or something, I just like clutch the phone like Isabella, and that's like my white rose like demonstration of like nonviolent resistance. And like I think that would be really interesting, especially because it's like nonviolent resistance to the Nazi regime, which is what the white rose is. And like Corona was kind of like drawn with like German with like German kind of like undertones. And so I think what would be really interesting is like, because a wish is like, you obviously even see the stars on the ground, on the, like the floor, just like in Corona and the Wish film. So they're, and like we initiated the final battle with the healing realm. So that's all obviously what's happening. And so, like, I think it would be really interesting if the white rose scenes are when people are trying to commodify me or whatever. Like, I just like clutch the phone, and like you see that kind of like Fantasia sort of like magic power, like, and show yourself and into the unknown. And like, kind of what is happening is like each time somebody tries to like force a character or force like this concept of star power or like force there to be like an actual like person who like depicts what I'm like just visually drawing, just like with my stars and my ceiling tile. I think that's the whole point of Corona. And like the Tangled story is that's like my ceiling tile was just a painting. Like they didn't need like that's what's happening with the North Ultra and with San Bruno in Los Angeles. It's like nobody asked anybody to make these movies. They're and like I think that's kind of what's happening is that they're trying to like so hard to monetize it, but it's not something to be monetized. And just like King Midas, they're just like breaking this thing that they're trying to steal for no reason. When like and I think that's kind of what it can symbolize is that it's like it like the white rose scenes would symbolize like each time someone like they try to add like a star power sort of like aspect to the thing, like that's like the Sand Fellowship, and like you'll see that reverberating to like the actors, kind of like how in Kanto like everybody is seeing Abuela like blatantly gaslighting everybody and like you see all of the people there that are just watching this, but like that's what the social structure is. And so you'll see that happening each time they try to like interject star power into something that like somebody just drew. I think it would be really interesting to see like how just like they said you were the one you've been waiting for. Like that's what my power is. That's what my level of power is. I don't need them to do that. Like, and nobody even wants them to do that, but they're like desperately trying to do it because they want to monetize this. And so like I think it would be really interesting to see like that Fantasia power is like that you are the one you've been waiting for power of like that is what's like permeating the story, and like what the white rose scenes are is that like it would be really interesting to see like we've seen the world as like beautiful and colorful and diverse as it can be, but there's still like that monetization that's happening. And so I think what would be really interesting is if each time like I clutch the phone and the white rose scenes happen, is there's this like Fantasia show yourself wind like Fantasia, like show yourself gusts of wind, and like the mist in San Francisco, and the mist in the Enchanted Forest, and the wave that like goes to Arendelle. You like see this like really like great level of power, and like but instead of it like Kumandra like darkness sanding people, it's like this just like beautiful like white rose like flower bed that just like emerges and like just like ripples across the earth and across the server and like makes these like beautiful like flower beds of white roses, like kind of like where Isabella's room, but it's just like vast flower beds and just like beautiful white roses and like all of the majesty that you see in Isabella's room. Like it's just as beautiful and majestic as that, but it's just purely white. It's like purely white gold Fantasia, like white, blue, gold Fantasia, like beauty. And like I think that would be really interesting. Is that's like what the white rose scenes are. It's like Eros is just like flourishing the world with these like beautiful white roses each time I clutch the phone. And it shows how like the world like in Isabella's room and like the Encanto itself and like Camilo's power and like Camilo's like beautiful voice, but then all of that just like goes like totally like white rose, like totally like it just becomes like that same exact kind of like majesty, but like a it has like a regalness and in an austerity that is like very that is really like just like it's very like austere, and it's very just like we are like, resisting this, like just like me and Jamesy, like resist no matter the pain. It's like it becomes like the same level of majesty. Like if you have like a level 100 beautify, like it's the same level of majesty, but it's not the same move. It just kind of looks the same. And I think that would be a really interesting way to depict it, because that's what Camilo is. He's a chameleon. And so it would be really interesting if how that is portrayed is as like the beautiful, like vast beauty of the Encanto, like that whole beautiful world of the Encanto, but like just seeing that all just be totally white, like just as beautiful, but just like totally like these white, beautiful, lavish, like fat flower petals that are just like really demonstrating that like we are like going 100% white rose right now. Like we are going 100% non-violent resistance right now. And like I think that would be really beautiful just to see like how Camilo's chameleon power has grown, and that like that's kind of what the statement is that it's like everything is beautiful and everything is like wonderful, but like the level of like like religious like extremism that is happening is being met with this like beautiful, just like austere, like royal, white, like lavish, like regal sort of like austerity, and it's just like in like standoffishness that is coming, that is just kind of like emanating from Camilo. And I think that would be super, super interesting to see that that's how like my like, and then that's how like I genuinely reveal myself as Eros. I think would be really interesting is that it's like Camilo was like a Patronus kind of like form that I took while I was like while like there was a lot of like while there were things that had to be like rectified or whatever, kind of like Lion King. But then like the like that like Eros reveal is like, okay, we're like full right white rose right now because like there's a lot of like persecution, like Nazi level persecution happening, and like Camilo's chameleon power is just going like full white rose, and I think that would just be really beautiful to see. Like that's where the first reveal of Eros is like that like purple, kind of purple blue haired Eros, like that raven Eros with the strings and the redstone. Like that would be kind of like the first reveal of that, which I think would be really, really beautiful to see. And like to see like when I first reveal myself as Eros, like you just see this wave of like white roses, and like that's just kind of what is permeating the movie. And like what is kind of like as the movie progresses, like that's where like, and as it like reaches like its peak and reaches like its climax, like that's where the movie like where you see like the like each of these waves of like white roses, like by the time that we reach like the actual like song of deepest sorrow and like the construction of the sorcery kingdom and I grant this wish, like I think that that would be really interesting if that's where like as much as like whatever the reach of my art is like the final like depiction of like the of like my transformation, which is like this flower bed of white roses that like demonstrates and reveals what the reach of my art is. And I think that that would be really beautiful, like through line for like what the like white rose scenes are in the film.